Hello and welcome to the Movie Moolah Podcast. I am your host, Ben Yenny, and with me today is the extremely talented and not at all sarcastic Stimson Snead.
He's right. I am not at all sarcastic, and I am extremely talented at not being sarcastic. Also, other things, maybe. I don't know. Don't trust me.
I mean,
Hi,
honestly,
nice to be here.
It's great to have you. I've known Stimson for years. Yeah. Stimson and I worked on several projects together. The biggest one would be Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox.
Of which we locked picture only a week ago. Congratulations to my fellow
Congratulations,
producer.
us.
Yes, very good us.
Yes. So we are so anyway, I thought I'd have Stimson on here just to talk a bit about making your first feature and doing it at more than that micro budget scale and what that entails. So
yeah, I'm really happy to talk about that. Also, I'm apparently not allowed to drink, which makes me less happy to talk about it, but it helps for talking about a first feature. So yes.
Wait, who said you weren't allowed to drink?
Voices in my head.
Fair enough. In this case, yeah, it's probably best not to drink alone. I was thinking about starting another podcast that was about having drunken conversations, but
well, if those voices in my head, then you never drink alone.
Valid point.
So yeah, what can I tell you? This is so strange for me being here on the podcast with you because there is not a step of this production that you and I have not been in communication about for the past, not quite a year, but past 9 months that this has been a thing. So it's very interesting to me talking to you now in the form of this podcast because I generally don't know, where do we begin with this? Where would you like me to begin?
Let's, because you're not yet a household name, let's start with a bit more about
good reason anyway.
What?
Not a household name for any good reason anyway.
That's true. How did you get started in the film industry?
Oh, I don't think there was ever a point that I wasn't planning to be in the film industry. Like, it's the second earliest job I can ever remember wanting as a kid. The one before that being Penguin Explorer, but apparently all the penguins have been explored, devastating my little 8-year-old brain. But from that point on, it was always movies. And it was always directing movies. Like, even as a kid, I didn't really want to be an actor, although I liked being in front of the camera and I liked being on set. I always wanted to be a director. I didn't really understood what that meant as a child or even a teen or last week, but I understood that I wanted to be the one who got to shape what the story was from beginning to end, where even if there's individual elements where I'm personally not doing the work, maybe I'm not the writer of this scene, maybe I'm not the actor in it, I'm not the one doing the effects, I'm still the one guiding all that other pieces towards a cohesive vision. And even as a kid, I understood that part of directing, and that was the part I was always drawn to. And from that point on, it was just watching movies constantly as a disappointed 9-year-old, getting into my teen years, went to college for film, immediately moved to LA after college to start doing it, and have never really stopped doing just that one thing.
That makes sense. I mean, you've done some acting on the way, haven't you?
Acting, yes. But my first real job in LA for years was doing background, which, at the risk of offending a lot of my dear friends who do background, is not acting, it's being a human prop. But I quite liked it because it gave me an excuse, especially for those first 3 or 4 years when I was kind of getting my footing in LA. My stupid bill payer was putting me on the biggest budget sets in the world. My favorite thing was to be on a big budget set that had so many background that they couldn't keep track of everybody. And I would just sneak over to Video Village and kind of peer over the director's shoulders just to see what the hell was going on. One of the first shows I was ever on, I tried to do that as much as possible. And it was the Gay Bash episode of Community, where I was just trying to hang out in Video Village just so I could understand how it was working. Because I'd never even set foot on a production of that scale when I was there doing background. So it was a wonderful crash course.
Well, I mean, it's Community, and Tim Travers stars Joel McHale.
Which was the most starstruck I was the entire shoot, with full respect to our other wonderful celebrities. But because Joel was literally the guy, the star on the first real set I was ever on, and now 12 years later is working for me on my own feature, I wasn't just starstruck so much as I just was in shock at the course of my own life that day.
That would make sense. How was it working with Joel?
Fantastic. The first half hour, not so great, because it took me a long time, that first half hour, just to get over my own kind of starstruck shock. I can't believe this is real. I actually got this guy. Really? Holy bleep. That's amazing. And then once I got over that, and which was helped a lot by what a great professional Joel is, but after about that 20 minutes or so, I realized, oh, this guy is still an actor. This is someone I can still direct, give notes to, and he's here to play ball. He's here to be a pro. And from that point on, I had a blast with it. And I'm glad, because I was able to kind of take that energy with every subsequent celebrity I worked with on the shoot. But Joel helped me get over that hump. He was literally only the 4th day of filming was the day we had him out. So we had not even had a full week of breaking in the tires of the production team yet.
That sounds right.
Day 4. You missed him, by the way, and I know you were very upset about that.
I know, I was annoyed. But the
you said several other words at the time. Annoyed wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well, see, that algorithm that we're avoiding the thing until the 20-minute mark.
Yeah. I'm being very good. I bleeped myself already.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Stimson. Did you actually meet Stimson? Or no, sorry, did you meet
I've met myself
Joel?
several times.
I would hope so. Did you meet Joel while you were on that doing background on Community, or no?
I did, although I would be shocked if you remembered. To those of you who are not from Seattle, there was a great local comedy show that was basically SNL for Seattleites called Almost Live. You can still find clips of it on YouTube. Joel was on it. Bill Nye was on it back before Bill Nye the Science Guy. And as I was passing Joel by Crafty on the set of Community, I couldn't resist myself. Almost Live forever. And he looks at me and just goes, and then kept, because he knew exactly what I was talking about. And if Joel actually remembers that, I would be shocked. Although I did get to meet the other actors on it. Donald was very pleasant. So was Allison. Those were the other ones I got to meet that day.
Very nice.
Yeah. I also may have stolen some of Chevy's food from Crafty, but
oh, that's great. Do you happen to know what the statute of limitations is in California for theft?
Whatever it is, I've already passed it.
Yes, you have.
Oh.
I do actually know that because I Googled something specifically in relation to another project we were working on.
Also, at the time, I wasn't SAG. I'm SAG now. It's not stealing food if you're SAG. This.
Valid point. What other sets did you work on before you, or besides Community, before
honestly,
you really...
I can't keep count. I used to keep a journal of it just so I could look back on it. I stopped counting after the first 500 or so productions I was on. This was my 9 to 5 for several years. I do remember the shows where I was most prominently featured on, like where friends will still text me about it if they spot me. I was on the 3rd episode of The Bee in Apartment 23. When the blonde gal is trying to get notice at the bar, I'm the guy sitting right next to her, very unsubtly checking her out. I was also sitting next to, oh God, I'm spacing on his name. Wonderful, the guy from Parks and Rec that everybody loves, the super manly man.
Not, oh. And now I'm blanking on his name too. He has a wood shop.
Yes.
He was on, he did an AR-15
Anybody listening to this podcast right now just lost a lot of respect for both of us.
I know.
I was sitting next to him. Yes, Tim Offerman.
Yeah,
I was sitting next to him for a couple of the courtroom episodes, and he and I got to chat several times. I accidentally hit on Rob Lowe one point on set, which again, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. But I was just kind of popping up all over the place. Oh, I got my face ripped in half on the big crowd episode of that vampire, one of the vampire shows. As you can tell, my memory for this is just solidly great. But no, this was my equivalent of flipping burgers at the time. The real stuff I was getting into was starting to DP more and more. I started producing on a few projects. I went through a lot of the learning curve of what is and is not a good use of pro bono energies.
Mm-hmm.
And by a couple years later, I was DPing mostly that full time until I had to take a break for a few years. And that's when I jumped into Treat Street and the other features I've been working on, which is where I met you.
Yeah, that's right. We met the first time at AFM, right?
Yes. Although we knew each other by reputation beforehand. So one of the great things about networking, and I hope that people who do this are never afraid to advocate for themselves. I reached out to the wonderful gal who was organizing the Seattle Film Summit.
You can just name her because she's actually episode 2.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah. Lorraine. So yes. Yeah,
And we hit it off just talking online. And because AFM happens before Summit, when she found out I was going to be there, she agreed to meet me, just have dinner with the whole group. And as we're talking, you came up and it became very clear that I needed to meet you. And the next night, because we all kind of kept sort of consistently hanging out, having drinks out on the veranda in the evenings at AFM, they made a point of introducing us. And we hit it off so thoroughly that by the time Seattle Film Summit rolled around, one of the things they offered filmmakers like me was the chance to sit down with producers like you. And you and I had already spoken on a phone a few times at that point. So I think you and I kind of skipped the meeting part of our meeting entirely. And we're just kind of shooting the stuff for the time of our meeting. And then we kind of agreed that you were one of the people I thought I wanted to work with, but I wasn't sure. You kind of gave me your full financial pitch, what it would be to hire you. I remember I kind of compared you against a few other folks, ended up working with you, hired you, and I've managed to avoid paying you ever since. So it's worked out great for me.
Yeah, that's been great for you. For the record, anybody listening, I don't normally work for free.
Also, for the record, he did not initially work for free for me. At this point, we're partners. We collaborate on different projects. So just to be clear, I did not actually get him for free at the beginning.
Thank you, Stimson. I appreciate that.
I like to think I have earned our business status at this point.
I would agree with that.
He said, making notes in his to-do list of bills to send out.
Cut this section. No, no, actually, it's been great working with you. Did you expect to get the cast you got on Travers?
Yes. One of the things that I have learned in the years that I've been in the industry is you're only as good as the people you work with. But if you're working with good people, you can trust them. My casting director is the phenomenal Ronnie Yeskel, who's, if you look up her IMDb just out of curiosity, her list of projects she's been on is more than most movies people have seen. She is an absolute legend in the industry. So while I did not know who I was going to get for Tim Travers, I never had any doubt in my mind that we would get people who would bring serious value and talent to the project. And that's because I trusted Ronnie. Now, what people we got for it, that I had no idea. And my only legitimate concern I had was because we were casting so late in the game. We had one person in particular who I think we closed the deal on him maybe 40 hours before she showed up on set. So my only concern wasn't whether or not we could get people, was whether or not we could get them in time. So we had an entire backup cast on Tim Travers, every one of which I tried to cast in small supporting roles just so that I would have an excuse to pay these people regardless, just to show my appreciation for them. The role of Royce, for example, who Danny Trejo plays wonderfully in the film, was a local actor who is so funny even though that's actually a villain, that we cast him to be the drunk at the bar, and every single line this man gets, he gets a laugh out of. He's great.
He is great. I didn't connect that those were the same people.
Oh yeah, he was our backup to Royce if God forbid something had happened.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people listen to podcasts and don't like research before, but just so you know, the cast of Tim Travers is Danny Trejo, Joel McHale, Felicia Day, and Keith David are the recognizable names, and then Sam Dunning plays 21 roles. Is it something like that?
I think I sat down and did the number one. Okay, he technically plays one role. It's Tim Travers, but it is Tim Travers, the time traveler, who keeps creating duplicates of himself. But they are all distinct versions of him. I think myself and our editor, Jason McKee, I think he and I counted somewhere just shy of 40 something distinct Tims. We'll know soon enough because we're going to be having some fun with that in the film's end credits without getting too into the details. But I will actually be going through and getting an exact count of this at some point.
I am really looking forward to seeing that number.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is he's not the only one who plays Tim Travers. So the fun thing is because of the technology we used in the film, which involves everything from good old fashioned split screening to camera trickery with over the shoulders, body doubles, and lookalikes. We also do a full few face replacements, stuff like that, just to make it possible for him to interact with himself. But there are actually a lot of different actors in that movie who play Tim Travers. I think the final number, counting myself and the editor, because we did some doubling work in our pickup days, comes in at 8 people play Tim Travers, depending on where you are. It's 7 or 8.
That makes sense. I mean, I know that one day I was on set, there were at least, aside from Sam, 4.
Yeah.
So
counting Sam, 5, and then I think it's 7, and then Jason and myself would make 6 and 7. So
that is a I mean, this was a really impressive undertaking. How many shoot days was it? Not including pickups?
17.
17.
A normal feature shouldn't happen in 17 days, and this was anything but a normal feature.
No, the logistics of it are absolutely insane.
A lot of that has to go to our just fantastic, going back to the whole trust the people you rely on. I had a wonderful first AD, Cheyenne Smith, and she had a ongoing joke that the entire production, she would always put the quote of the day, which was whatever the funniest comment any person made the previous day would be on the call sheet for the next day. And she was talking to her gaffer one day, Vukas, and the quote of the day became when Vukas said to Cheyenne, "You're an optimist." She responded, "How do you know?" To which Vukas says, "You wrote the schedule." But you know what? She did it. She was right. We did it in 17.
Yeah, no, it was a 17 shoot days for this film is just insanity. Like I've been to a lot of panels. I went to a panel from the San Francisco Film Society with Martin Scorsese. When I say I was just in the audience on this one for clarity. But the producer of that film was saying that she couldn't believe that they shot this one film with Adam Driver in only 35 days and only $16 million.
Oh,
and then
God, what I wouldn't have given for either one of those.
I know. And she turned to this audience of primarily people who have, like any of the filmmakers in the audience, they'd kill for $500,000 there. Yeah. And she did it as an applause line, which was just hysterical to me. But
did it get the applause?
No. Which made it funnier. To be fair, George Lucas introduced them. So it was a little bit of a different set of expectations on the panel, I think, than the audience. But yeah, so was it Felicia we got 40 days, or was it Keith? 40
Keith
hours.
David was the 11th hour.
Yeah.
He shot on Tuesday. Ronnie made the offer on Friday. Like just the initial offer on Friday, and he shot the following Tuesday.
Yeah, that was super close, but he was great.
He was great. No, the experience with him that actually, I had two experiences with him that blew my mind. The
Mhm.
first was the Monday before he films. He calls me that evening just because he wanted to talk about the character a little bit.
Mhm.
And it's fairly late. We had already wrapped earlier, so I'm still in decompressing mode. And I had been watching a TV show when he called. And what I had been watching was the season finale of Rick and Morty that he was in. So I literally paused the TV, picked up the phone to hear the exact same voice suddenly come out of the phone that I'd been watching on the TV, which I found not just a little bit surreal.
It is quite surreal, or I'd imagine, at least. Yeah.
And then when I'm taking him around set, he's this wonderfully calm, polite, soft-spoken old gentleman, wants to meet and shake hands with every person. And then when it's time for him to actually start acting, and he switches into acting mode with his voice, I swear to God, you were there. It shook the foundations of the building. I took a step back. It startled me so badly. And I briefly was thinking to myself, oh my God, I would cry if this man ever shouted at me. I would just break down and cry.
And you're not the only one. But for those of you listening, Stimson's not exaggerating. His voice literally shook the walls. They were stage walls, but
these weren't the most reinforced walls in the world, but walls nonetheless.
Yes, it was. That is something I will never forget. But yeah, do you feel different now that you've actually gone through and at least shot a feature, even if it's not completed?
Exceedingly
yeah.
So. No matter how much experience you have, no matter how many shorts you've done, whether they're big budget or not, and to be clear, I've done some fairly aggressively budgeted shorts. I am no stranger to working with a large, very well-paid crew. Well, they might argue the well-paid part, but that's neither here nor there. It is still not the same thing as the whole that is doing a feature film production, not just from the creative standpoint, from the scheduling standpoint, to trying to keep that cohesive vision. And so the feeling that I come out with it at the end of it is one of supreme confidence and also relaxation. Like, you spend your whole life saying to yourself, when I finally get to do one of these things, a feature, and a real feature with a real budget behind it, the nightmare scenario is you finally get there and you realize you hate it. And I get to the end of that production, which we did in 17 days. We wrapped 2 days before Christmas. So just the level of exhaustion felt by the entire crew. And all I could think to myself as we were wrapping was just, oh God, I want to get back on set and do another one. Immediately. Like, I don't think I was through the wrap party before I was feeling the pang to want to come back and do another production with these same people. But then again, I had a lot of incredibly good strokes of luck on this feature. And I don't think a lot of people doing first features get as lucky as I did. I got very lucky with an extraordinarily good cast who brought so much to it. Our lead actor deserves every award under the sun for his performance in it. Samuel Dunning is this movie, and credit cannot be overstated to what he brings to this role. And I was also supported by this crew of depending on our shooting days, 30 to 50 people, all of which, in addition to being pros, were easy, fun to get along with people. I don't think we had one sourpuss on this entire set, other than, I don't know, you, maybe.
Yeah, that was...
But as anyone who's ever been on set knows, it only takes one to bring down the mood of an entire production. And we didn't have a single one, and that's rare. I mean, indie films being shot on their phones with a crew of 3 people will probably still get more sourpusses than I did. So the feeling of just good fortune and luck that I had coming out of the end of that was amazing to me. And I think a lot of that really just has to go to how great a producing partner North by Northwest Studios, Rich Cowan and Casey Cowan are in the team they've put together and the people they hire to work with. I mean, it's all, I deserve credit is what I meant to say.
Yes, you are the director. Of course you deserve all the credit.
It was all that. It was all what those other folks brought to it. And part of the reason I want to get back into it so much is because of what a pleasure it was to get to work with folks like that.
Oh, yeah. I do a decent amount of speaking. So, and generally when I speak, I get invited to some studio space while I'm out there. And North by Northwest was easily the best setup that I've seen outside of LA. Really. Yeah. It's there's one place in southern New Mexico that has a private jet, a decommissioned private jet that they can use as a set. And that's the only thing that North by didn't have.
Basically. You should have asked.
I did. They didn't.
To those who don't know, North by is an older company that's been kicking around for a few years. They are the best studio in the state of Washington. I would argue the best studio in the entire Pacific Northwest region, including parts of Canada and Vancouver. All of the shows, Z Nation was created by them. Black Summer. Currently, they're doing that wonderful show for PureFlix, Going Home. And they also did last year the show Live and Local. These are as consummate pro as it gets. They are great.
Yeah,
I gotta put in all my plugs for North by.
I have zero issue with that whatsoever. I think I've actually plugged them on a different podcast of this because of that experience.
On that note, you should get Rich Cowan on this podcast of yours at some point.
He's on the invite list. I wanted to actually have a few things live before I reached out to him about it.
Okay.
But yeah. And peek behind the veil here. This is actually the last one I'm going to record before we start dropping episodes on Monday. So
yeah, it's going to be freaking great.
It's going to be amazing. We've probably been going more than 20 minutes.
Oh, just thank fucking Christ. He specifically asked me not to swear right before the podcast, and I don't think I have that much of a potty mouth, but literally my reactions to finding out I wasn't allowed to swear brought out all the shit out of me, and none of it was on purpose. It was just like one of those, oh, damn, I can't. Oh, fuck, shit, fuck.
I'm going to have to remember that one. Because I do enjoy learning about people, but I also enjoy busting people's balls.
Yeah.
Basically, figuratively.
Well, the self-censoring bleep is always fun, which brings it back to the project you and I first started on, Treat Street, which has the running joke of the self-censored bleeps. The first project Ben and I worked together, which we're still working on. It's part of actually what we're doing with Tim Travers right now, although we can't go into details, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening right now there. There is a running joke that there's one little girl in it who watches a lot of our movies that they're censored, and she is genuinely unaware that the characters aren't saying bleep in movies. So there's a running joke of the film where she just loudly says, "Oh, bleep!"
It's a great family movie. And honestly, it's I'd say probably my biggest weakness as an executive producer is that I really, really, really fucking hate reading scripts. But I have actually read Treat Street 3 or 4 times now, which is gigantic praise for you, Stimson.
Thank you. I hope it gets better each time you read it, or the drugs kick in stronger.
I mean, not. What were we talking about? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I don't know, something fucking silly.
Well, I mean, I kind of forgot to put the tagline at the start of this, but it is serious people, serious topics, silly conversations. So I think we're on brand.
Well, at least 2 out of 3.
Yes, sure.
I won't tell you which one I disagree on.
I'm not sure which one.
So what else can I share with your listeners about the stuff we've been doing? This is very interesting to me, these kind of sit downs, because so much of what you and I do together is me bringing in the art side of things, you bringing in the business. So for the folks listening to this podcast, I assume they must be getting a lot of the business side of the conversation, given that it's your podcast.
That would be yes. So there was one thing I actually wanted to talk to you about specifically. Tim Travers was a short originally, right?
It was. And it was not a proof of concept, which is an important distinction.
Mm-hmm.
The short film was never, ever intended to be a feature. In fact, I think the longest goal I had for Tim Travers, the short, was I was seriously considering doing an anthology of it and a few of my other shorts. Except the only problem I had with that was that the framing device I found actually more interesting than any of the shorts. Like I might go back and just make a movie out of a normal movie out of the framing device because I liked it so much. But Tim Travers, so this actually goes back to Treat Street, our little bleeping kids family film. We already knew we were going to be doing Treat Street in Washington State with North by Northwest Studios. But because intuitively, I think I just kind of knew that Treat Street would be of such a bigger scale than anything I had ever done, certainly in terms of the production team, the production crew, something like that, I didn't want to create a situation where myself, the director and writer, was the least experienced person on set, which would have been very much the case had we jumped into Treat Street without some of these shorts behind us. And I'd already done a lot of shorts, but the idea I had, and I reached out to Rich Cowan with North by Northwest, was let's do a short and ignore the fact that it's a short. From every piece of production groundwork, from the paperwork to the pay rates, we are treating this as though it is just 20 pages of a fully budgeted feature, which made Tim Travers a little bit more expensive than I was used to on shorts, admittedly, but the quality of the crew and the learning opportunities that brought out of it were extraordinary. But that's literally what the seed of Tim Travers was from a business standpoint, was I wanted to expose myself to working within a big film studio production mindset for how I would shoot a project, so that when we came into Treat Street, I would not be coming in blind. Now, Treat Street ended up not being the feature we did due to circumstances beyond our control and a few folks who shall not be named here. But what we learned from Tim Travers was so important going into the feature. I do not think I would have been ready to do that feature had I not done these shorts, and not just done these shorts, but done them in this way. And the other short that I did was called Lab Rats, which I'm currently in post-production right now on.
Yeah. Some of the cast for that came back, right?
Yes. Neither of the characters in Lab Rats are named. Like, they have names in the original script, but they're literally just credited as the man and the woman in the short itself. But Nicole Marat, who absolutely carries that short and is fantastic, which is no shade against Andrew Wind, her co-star, who is fantastic as well, but it is Nicole's show at the end of the day. We made a point of bringing her back in the feature of Tim Travers to play Tim Travers' mom, and she probably has what is the funniest line of the film, which I'm not going to spoil here. But she has barely a minute of screen time, but probably, I have a feeling she will get the biggest laugh in the movie.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably likely. I honestly want to put that line on a t-shirt as well.
Yeah. Well, I know some folks we can talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so Tim Travers started as a short, and then as we were going into Treat Street, because we'd already been greenlit, we had our funding in place, we had our shooting window in place, and then as the folks we were working with started to show their true colors, it became abundantly clear, even if it wasn't official yet, that we were about to get screwed and we were going to lose that money. But here we were with a production window, plus the additional funds that I had raised independently. nowhere near what I needed for Treat Street, but still a considerable amount of funds that I had control over. And this was at this 11th hour decision. If I'm going to shoot something, I'm going to have to shoot it right now while I have these funds, while I have that liquidity, and while we have this production window with this production company that can handle it. What's it going to be? And because the Tim Travers short had just so comically overperformed on festivals, like to an absurd degree, like every award in this room, and you can't see it because it's not much. I've got probably 12 up. Every single one in here is for Tim Travers. Oh, and one little trophy for an unrelated film. But Tim Travers just freaking killed it on festivals. And I realized this was as close to a market testing as I was ever going to get. So I called up Sam Dunning, who had done such a great job in the short. And he and I had a lengthy conversation about what this story would be if this was going to be a feature. And then I called up you. And I think you already knew I was planning to do something at this point. But you and I were both still reeling from what had happened on Treat Street. But I think you had intuited I was going to do something. Just not what. And then I kind of pitched you, all right, remember the Tim Travers short? That's the movie we're about to make. You're going to be selling it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And maybe 90 days from the time you and I had that conversation, we rolled camera.
Was it 90?
90 days.
I thought it was less.
Well, that's from the time the script was finished. This is from the time we had the conversation to make the film.
Got it. Yeah.
From the time the script exists, it was closer to 50, 60 days. Yeah. I still, needed time to write the thing. But the funny thing was, we were actually starting pre-production before the script was there, because what I decided to do, because I had all these stages from Lab Rats and several unused stages with North By that I was working on at the time with various projects I can't name. And then a few other just unrelated resources in the city, because I knew a lot of the folks that had worked on Z Nation, so we knew about a lot of their locations. I was actually functionally building the script out of the things I knew we had access to. So much of the writing, so we built that entire thing in Tim Travers with his radiation chamber is there because that's the rat cage from Lab Rats. And I knew I already had the prop. And it's massive, by the way. You could fit a dozen people in the thing, as well as a 7-foot fully functioning human hamster wheel.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, what did you do with that? I know you were looking to divest of it a while ago.
The hamster wheel?
Yeah.
Oh, that's in storage.
That's in storage. Okay.
I've decided that's going to be my joke MacGuffin. I overspent on it for Lab Rats, and I got a lot of use out of it in Lab Rats. And then I decided we're putting it in Tim Travers as well, because he's a mad scientist and we need a few wacky things lying around. And we actually incorporated it pretty significantly into the plot of Tim Travers, actually. So it's a not insignificant piece. It was used for the official Tim Travers music video with Jeff Hillard, which will come out around the same time that the movie does. And right now, I think it's just at storage at North By with a lot of chains on it, because that thing is a death trap. There's a lot of blocks on it right now to make sure nobody plays on it.
That makes sense.
But that's how you get your money's worth. I spent too much on it for the short, so I made a point of reusing it.
Oh yes, and I'm sure you charge yourself a rental fee for it as well.
Absolutely, and I will use it on the next project again. I will find a place in Treat Street for that to go. Or that other project we can't talk about right now because we don't technically have the rights to it yet, but fingers crossed, news in the coming weeks.
Yes, that.
But couldn't you totally see it in that second location that I can't name here? Not the first location they go to, but the second location where people are sweating a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, that fits.
Think about the group of characters on the roof who are trying to make things very sustainable.
Yeah. No. That's 100%. Yeah, I'm trying not to name that location, but no, that fits.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What's it like optioning scripts? Not scripts. IP.
Straightforward, honestly.
Okay.
You hire a good lawyer. I work with Heather Morado here in Seattle. You reach out to them and you try to convince them that you're right to do it. Sometimes that can kind of blow up in your face. Right now, I'm presently controlling the rights to the Moore Child, which we're trying to shop around. But because More Child, for example, and I can talk about that because I do have the rights to it at the moment,
Mhm.
More Child is an extraordinarily good book, but I will admit we're fighting kind of a ticking clock on it. And because it would require a certain amount of budget to do, there are days I get very worried about More Child. Although that's why I hope something like Tim Travers can push us over the line. But a lot of it's just reaching out to folks. And then, as you know, there's that other one we're talking to right now. And it's been very straightforward. We just reach out, talk, and really the question right now is not a matter of affordability. It's whether or not you and I get to the point that we can earn this gentleman's trust about his IP. So if that gentleman, and you know who you are, is listening to this podcast, please trust us. We really want to do something great with this story of yours, if you're listening.
Yes. If you're listening, I'm impressed you're listening. And I am, but yeah, I think this movie has a ton of potential.
Yeah. But it's a matter of going to that phase. But that I think a lot of the stuff, especially if you have the right people to talk to and work with, I think a lot of the stuff people deal with is actually fairly straightforward. Even things like casting the celebrities, that's just about having a reputable casting director, because a lot of the time people can afford celebrities. The question is reaching out and not coming off like a crazy person. And one of the major things a casting director does is they vet out the crazies. So when we're reaching out to Joel McHale's agent, because it's not me, random kid, going, want to be in my movie, but rather industry veteran, respected person, Ronnie Yeskel, who has already taken the time to vet me and work with me and other things, that means her agent, his agents can talk to her knowing that their talent is going to be respected and taken care of, because it's not just about paying these people a certain amount. It's about their safety. It's about their reputations. It's about whether or not they feel comfortable being creatives in this space and not like something brought in just to add value to a project. And yes, I know we all do that. That is part of it, and they know it too. But these folks want it to be more. They care about their craft.
Yeah, I mean, and that's their agent's job, is to protect them and make sure they get the absolute most money for their day rate that they can, basically. That's the entirety of the agent's job.
Yes. But the casting director is what's going to give you credibility when you reach out to that agent.
100%. I mean, I don't think we could have gotten, actually, yeah, we couldn't have gotten anybody we got without Ronnie.
I'm absolutely certain of that.
What?
Do we edit the pauses on this?
Not all of them, but this one's getting edited. So, how did you meet Ronnie to begin with?
I was her intern way back in the day. I was hiking with my friend and who was an actor, and I was talking with her about ways to get noticed by casting directors. And we had taken a long hike, and we were just sitting at a cafe up near Topanga Canyon talking about ways to get noticed. And I was kind of pitching my idea that she thought was absolute nonsense and garbage. And she was very vocal about how my idea was garbage. And this older gal who's sitting next to us at the coffee table reading a book sort of casually looks up and goes, I actually think that's a pretty good idea. And that was Ronnie. We hit it off, and I was interning for her. She was working with RKO over at the time. So I spent the next couple of months driving out to Santa Monica twice a week to help her make phone calls, talk to agents on the phone, check availabilities, and do auditions. It was great. I learned a huge amount from her, and we've been friends ever since.
Very nice. I didn't know that it, I mean, that's almost like a movie scene in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that's how you met. That's great.
And the part of this that matters, I was right. And for the record, my idea for how to get noticed by a casting director did get her to pay attention to us while we were talking, and I didn't even know she was a casting director.
Valid. Okay.
To my knowledge, the actor I was hanging out with that day doesn't still act. So, actually, no, that's sad. I feel bad.
Oh, yeah. Well,
they're a very nice person.
What? So you actually play like one of the characters with the most screen time in the film.
Yeah, I would say behind Sam and Felicia, I probably get the third most amount of screen time. The good news, though, is I'm also the most affordable.
That's probably true. I mean,
Yes.
there was one extra who was still pretty cheap,
Yeah,
but
that I'm trying to figure out. I might CG him out of it.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. He's not a good actor.
It's you, by the way. To people not getting that, I'm talking about Ben. No, so I play a character in the film called Helter, who is a hitman who is not very good at the job, but because it's a time travel comedy, the guy he keeps killing keeps coming back. And that's the running joke with Helter, the character. Um, I would like to say that me casting myself was not pure vanity and certainly not a casting couch decision, but I can't really commit to either of those. I had a lot of actually really wonderful actors who auditioned for the role, and I did spend a lot of time hemming and hawing, but I kind of ultimately settled in on this just being a character that I wanted to play and felt confident that there was a way that I was not seeing from the folks auditioning for it that I could do well. And to my great relief, my character actually reviewed extremely strongly when we did our test screening. So that seems to be how it turned out. But it was really kind of born of just the sort of selfish and unselfish reason. The selfish being, I just want this. And the unselfish being legitimately, I wasn't seeing what I was looking for at the auditions. Now, anybody who's ever acted can tell you that that can be a tricky game of ego to play with yourself because there's a fine line between, well, I haven't seen this particular performance quality versus I haven't seen this particular performance quality but with my face attached to it. My face not being attached to it is the part that I don't like, and it's very hard to be objective in those circumstances. So the best I can do is be aware of my own hypocrisy and hope that the character still works, and I think he does. And it was a lot of fun playing him. And it meant that, hey, I have screen time now with Felicia Day, Sam Dunning, and Danny Trejo.
Yeah, that is true.
So that was fun. I got to shoulder check Felicia Day and have her tell me to fuck off. That was very fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound fun.
In fact, I think that's her first line of the film, come to think of it. I think Felicia's first line of the film.
Is it? Doesn't she have a line in the studio before?
Nope. She's in the sound booth. You don't see her speak. You see her laughing, but she's muted because she's on the other side of the soundproof glass. Spoilers, by the way, soundproof glass is going to be in the film. And I know that's what everybody cares about. But I'm pretty sure the second part of her first line is telling me to fuck off.
Yeah, that might be true. I mean, you'd know better than me.
Yeah, I remember she is talking to the bartender. I shoulder check her and she tells me what to do with myself.
Yes, that's it. We're past the 20-minute mark. So we're not going to say what your drink is, but who decided on your drink
In the film?
in the film?
We were trying to come up with a drink to make it very clear right out the way that my character was not a villain to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So we came up with the silliest drink I could possibly drink. And we all were getting a good laugh about it.
It's a good drink.
As we were going out with,
It's a very good drink for that purpose.
It is. It gets the point across. And for the record, it was delicious. So say what you want against it. It was yummy. So I had no problem putting those back on set. And it was alcohol free. So before anybody wonders, no, I was not drinking booze while directing. We went out with one of the celebrities, who I will not say which. And to my great hilariousness, that evening, that celebrity ordered the exact same drink we'd been having all day long.
That's fantastic.
And because they had not been with us on set that day, they were not privy to the joke, but everybody at the table with them very much was. We did not bring it up, but I got a great laugh out of it for myself.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one thing that keeps kind of coming back in this podcast. And the way I would summarize it is navigating the navigating the very, very fine line between arrogance and confidence. And you've always struck me as more of a confident guy, a confident man, I suppose. No, kidding. We've dealt with those enough. But do you have any tips on just how?
Absolutely. And the first tip is specific to directors and producers, not to actors. You are not the star of the show. You are not the star of the show. You are not the star of the show. The show itself is the star. Your actors are the star. You know you are in bad territory as a producer or a director if one of the other people you're working with who's in the producing, directing role walks in with that attitude that says, I'm here to run the place. That walks in and says, I want the celebrity treatment. Because what you're dealing with there is someone who cares more about the ego trip than the work. So you always know when you're going to be in bad water with that. And I have been very lucky that I have not had to deal with that too much personally in recent years. As far as in your own behavior, how to be confident without being arrogant, I think it goes back to kind of the golden rule of the human condition. Don't be an asshole. Just no matter what you're doing in life, no matter what your role is, don't be an asshole. Just don't be an asshole about it. Whatever you believe, that's fine. Just don't be an asshole about it. It is incredibly simple. You can be as confident as you want, but what makes someone arrogant instead of confident is if they feel the need to be an asshole about their confidence. If I'm directing on set and I disagree with someone, at the end of the day, I'm going to get my way because it's quite literally my job. I'm going to get my way. It's in the job description. Now, I can either lord this over the person around me. I can make fun of them. I can dismiss them, or I can take the time to legitimately hear them out, make sure they know that I understand what they're arguing with me, which is important because, what if I'm wrong? You should always take the time to understand, because even if you're right, your work is going to be better for having taken the time to understand. So that when that person's bringing up the thing they think is wrong with my scene, I can be going, okay, I understand why you feel that way, because in the context of what you're looking with right now, you are absolutely right. But because we have this scene, and this scene, which we haven't done yet, or we haven't edited it with, it's actually going to work fine. But it's going to make my film better now because I have had to take the time to realize how much this thing depends on this scene, and this scene. And that's going to help me a lot when I get into editing. And it also makes sure your crew and everyone you work with knows they are valued. There's the thing I joke at the beginning of every set shoot that I do, or at least I think people think it's a joke, but I'm actually dead serious about it. No matter who you are on set, if you have a good idea, tell me about it. Never, ever be ashamed to come to me about that. Don't go to other people about that, because an actor doesn't want a PA giving them notes. That would be inappropriate. But even as a PA, if something's occurring to you, you can tell me. And I will always take the time to listen, because at the end of the day, if they're right and the idea they have is really good, I get the credit. I mean, why wouldn't I want to put that note in? But it's just, yeah, I think, and it really does come back to the very non-rocket science position of don't be an asshole. And that's why you can always tell with that certain types. And it's usually producers or first-time directors or directors who grew up in this culture but haven't actually had to direct much themselves, who come in with that lorded over. Like, the worst thing is if you ever walk into a set and you have a director who doesn't have a producing background and is talking to you, well, here's how you have to understand my vision. My vision. Ugh.
It's similar to people who pitch saying, I'm very passionate about this project, in those exact words, which if you're actually passionate about it, you should never need to say it.
Well, also, my thought to goes mind is, I certainly hope so if you're pitching it.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing here? If you're, are you implying that you have projects you pitch that you aren't passionate about? God, if you're a producer, if you're being paid to do this by the director, I'd be pissed if you weren't passionate about it.
I will give a peek behind the veil here. Again, in the real world, sales agents pitch shit they're not passionate about all the damn time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily serve the film well, but a honest but not passionate sales agent is probably going to do a lot better than a fake passionate and convincingly passionate, even though they don't mean it, sales agent who will rob you blind will do.
But they still got to communicate that to the director. This is one of the things where in our work dynamic is very clear and interesting here. But there is so much that where you depend on your sales agent and the person putting your film out into the world. Who are the companies currently representing Tim Travers right now? Let's put the plug for ourselves.
Guerrilla Rep Media, Animortal LLC, 123 Media, I think. Yeah.
It's important to have that trust and understanding because there are all those power imbalance dynamics. Like on the work we do, for example, because a lot of the times I'm the one who controls the IP, it gives me, compared to a lot of directors, a fairly disproportionate amount of say over what happens with my films, just because I control the IP on it. But in other cases, you will have directors who are their own producers, who poured their life and blood into something, and then they'll get those kind of folks that you were talking about who are happy to throw it away for a cheap dollar. Sales agents get a bad rap, but I think it's really important that people listen to this know how important it is to find a good one, because you need a good one. And this person, if they're not an honest player, absolutely has the ability to do you real harm.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of, I got my real start in this industry by being a shark against other sharks.
Yeah.
And that was what my take on being a producer's rep was. Now that I'm back to being a producer's rep, I still do that a bit. I just have better US distribution contacts than I used to.
Which I really appreciate.
Okay. So I ask my guests the same 3 questions to close every time.
And you haven't released the podcast yet, so I haven't had the ability to listen ahead to know what this is.
I know.
Normally I would have done some stalking by now.
That's just great. But the first question, you can answer second if you need a second to think about it. But that first question is, what are your top 3 favorite movies of all time as it stands right this second now? Can change in 10 minutes, but what are they right now?
Skip.
2, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that advice be, and when would you give it to yourself?
Directly out of college. Don't spend your own money. Okay. No, that's flippant. I would say the honest answer is the biggest piece of advice I would give myself. Everybody has to do pro bono work. Don't turn your nose up to it. That is how we make contacts. But treat it like money. I do work for you. You owe me work. And vice versa. And treat it like money. Don't fuck around about that sort of thing. Especially as a director, when you don't have money, when you're trying to just get your own projects off the ground, you are only able to do that through the kindness and support of your friends. So if you have folks who are bringing you out to help them out over and over again, but when it's time to do your work, they are not there whole hog, reciprocal, then those folks aren't your friends. Or at the very least, they take themselves seriously. They consider you a tool to their success. Emphasis on you being a tool. So treat that stuff like money. And even when money gets involved, I would say, when you start getting the bigger production, even the level of stuff that you and I are doing right now, really think hard about what favors for other people require. Because when they talk about how this industry is all who you know, I stand by, that always gets a bad rep. Like people hear that statement and they assume nepotism. I hear that statement and I assume about how it's building a cumulative trust. So if I bring you a project, that means when I need a project, okay, I bring you, the producer's rep, sales agent, a project that I know you can make money off of, even though I wasn't involved. But I think you would be really good for this particular film, and I think this film would be really good for you. That's great. That's something I'm happy to bring you, and I do that without a finder's fee or anything like that. That's me connecting people who I think will serve each other well. The trade-off is when it's time for me to bring a film, you get to be my first call, but I expect you to take that call deadly seriously. And that's how you and I have been operating for years. And I think people need to remember that because it is so easy to fall into the trap of being somebody else's tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite movies right now? I would say I always go back to Secret of NIMH.
Solid pick.
Yeah, Secret of NIMH. Men in Black always finds its way onto that list because it is such a rock solid comedic joy of a film that actually nails all the drama beats and the series and the comedy beats and good hard sci-fi stuff in there as well. And if I were to pick one other for right now, the more flexible third spot, what's a dark horse of a choice right now? Right now, I'm still on the Mandy train. So.
Okay. Solid choice. Not a single one has been referenced by somebody else.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
What has been? My God. More mainstream or less mainstream?
Some less mainstream, most more.
Really?
But yeah.
All three of those were big Hollywood productions.
That was why I said some less, more. But I mean, Mandy was a Secret of NIMH wasn't exactly a widescreen release. It did go up against The Great Mouse Detective, and it beat it hands down, which was great.
Hey, anytime you beat Disney, that's something to brag about.
Oh, entirely. And I think Men in Black just feels slightly overplayed now, even though it shouldn't. It's a great movie. That first one is
well, it was ruined by all of its sequel. It's just never had a good sequel. The lightning never struck twice with that property.
That's true. Yeah. And Mandy, it wasn't exactly big, but it did revitalize Nick Cage's career, really.
Oh yeah. Although I would argue he was already on the upswing when that was going on, but that pushed him fully into the up. But I think he was already on the return course at that point.
Yeah, I could buy that.
Question number 3.
What?
Question number 3.
Yes. What are you looking for? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, that's a lame one.
I know, but it's the end of the podcast. You always
it feels like a token thing. You need a better third question. People can find me on my website, which is stimsonsnead.com, the Instagram, which is where you'll find all the real and more consistent updates from me, which is also Stimson Snead, virtues of a weird name. And if you feel like being utterly ignored by me, you can always go to my Twitter, which I've update maybe one tweet every 6 months, and I have all of like 10 followers. I'm on Twitter under protest. So, but
I think you can leave now. Yeah. I think that's what's going on. I'm pretty sure.
Oh no, now that the ship is sinking, now I kind of want to be a part of it. That's when it's fun. Like I want to be there to watch the band playing as the ship goes down.
Fair enough. Cool. Then yeah, thank you so much, Stimson. This has been a lot of fun.
Sorry, before you get to thanks, I just got to throw this out there, just a pitch idea that has been bugging me for ages. I can't wait for like 10 years from now, the TV show about the Twitter offices after Musk bought it and just the day-to-day havoc. That would be a great show. I would watch that show where it's practically just like Game of Thrones, where every other week some beloved cast member is getting laid off for another reason. Oh, it would be the best disaster porn office comedy of all time.
That sounds fantastic. Honestly, I've got my own office workplace comedy that I won't say. Mm-hmm. Mainly because I'd like to stay monetized. But anyway, on that bombshell.
One day the Ashley Madison podcast will happen. Don't worry.
It's already on Hulu, that one.
Oh, really?
Yes. but I'll tell you after we wrap. But
All right.
This has been the Movie Moolah Podcast. I'm Ben Yenny. If you like this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons wherever you're watching or listening to it. And if you want to see every time a new one comes out, smash that bell, as the kids say. And finally, I have a free film business resource package on my site. It's theguerrillarep.com/resources, link in the description. It's got a free investment deck template, a free ebook, a free white paper on a macroeconomic study of the film industry, and a whole lot of other goodies there. You'll also get a monthly content digest segmented by topic, which will eventually include some of these podcasts. Thank you so much for watching this, and hope to see you at the next episode.